When she ignores you, your first instinct is to react, to text again, to demand an answer, to prove your worth through words. But here's the truth. The moment you do that, you lose. Not because she's better than you, but because you gave her the one thing she was testing for: emotional control. See, silence isn't just absence, it's a weapon, and in the modern dating world, it's used more often than honesty. When she ignores you, she's not just forgetting, she's observing. She's watching what you do when you don't get attention. That moment reveals more about your masculine energy than anything you could ever say. Most men panic, they assume silence means rejection, but silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's calculation. And that's where most men fail. They break their frame, they chase validation, and they teach her that she holds the emotional power. But the man who understands the psychology of silence knows this. You never punish her by reacting. You punish her by becoming unreachable. When she ignores you, it's not the time to speak. It's the time to shift energy. You don't fight silence with noise. You fight it with presence. You disappear without bitterness, without anger, without trying to prove a point. You let her feel what she thought she wanted: distance. But what she won't expect is what that distance does to her emotions. Because at first, she'll feel relieved, then uncertain, then curious, and finally regretful. Not because you did anything, but because your silence created a vacuum where her ego used to breathe. That's the power of calm withdrawal. The moment you stop reacting, she starts reflecting. Your absence becomes her mirror. It shows her who she is. When you're no longer there to validate her, that's when the shift happens. Your silence becomes her teacher. And the price she pays isn't your anger, it's your peace. Because peace is the one thing she can't ignore. So, in this video, we'll go step by step through the art of letting her feel your absence. How to stop rewarding her silence, how to stay emotionally grounded when she tests your patience, and how to let your calm turn into power. This isn't about revenge. It's not about playing games. It's about discipline. You'll learn how to use silence as strength, how to walk away with grace, how to hold your frame when she's trying to shake it, and how to make her realize that ignoring a stoic man was the most expensive mistake she ever made. Because at the end of it all, silence has two meanings. Hers is avoidance, yours is control. And the man who masters that difference never has to chase because his absence becomes the loudest presence in her life. Before we start, a quick reminder. My complete Stoic couple course is now live at thestoiccouple.podia.com. If you've been learning from these videos, that's just the surface. Inside the course, we go deeper. Mastering attraction, understanding female psychology, and rebuilding your mindset from the inside out. Join once and you're in for life with lifetime access to all future courses, books, and new lessons. Plus, you'll be part of our private Stoic community, a brotherhood where men like you grow together in discipline, power, and self-control. It's available in English and Spanish, and you can enroll instantly at thestoiccouple.podia.com or click the link below. Enroll once, grow forever. Let's begin. Section number 1. Why her silence isn't what you think. When a woman goes silent, most men instantly assume the worst. She's done. She's lost interest. It's over. But in reality, silence is rarely that simple. It's often a test, a subconscious way of asking one question: are you strong enough not to need me? Because in the world of attraction, emotion is currency, and silence is how women check your emotional balance. Her silence isn't always cruelty. Sometimes it's curiosity. She wants to see what kind of man you are when the validation disappears. Will you chase? Will you panic? Will you fold? Or will you stay calm, collected, unshaken? That moment, the quiet between her last text and your reaction, decides everything. Because the truth is, most men are addicted to reassurance. They don't realize how much of their confidence depends on her responses. But the man who understands female psychology knows better. He knows silence is communication, just not the kind that needs words. It's her way of saying, show me your frame. When you don't react, when you don't try to explain, when you simply keep living your life with quiet certainty, you send a message louder than any reply ever could. I don't chase peace, I create it. That's when she starts to feel it, the shift in energy. Because women expect men to react. They don't expect men to remain composed. That composure flips the dynamic instantly. Her silence was meant to test your emotions, but now it's testing hers. She begins to wonder why you haven't reached out, why you're not fighting for her attention, why your energy feels so still when hers is restless. And that's when her curiosity turns into discomfort. Because a woman's ego can ignore your words, but it can't ignore your absence. You've taken away her emotional power source, and that void, that quiet uncertainty, begins to grow. That's the psychological price of ignoring a stoic man. So don't fall for the illusion. Her silence isn't rejection, it's reflection. It's the space between control and regret. And how you handle that space determines which side she ends up on. Stay calm, stay busy, stay unavailable, because the man who doesn't chase silence doesn't lose women. He teaches them what it feels like to lose him. Section number 2. When you stop reacting, she starts reflecting. The real power begins the moment you stop reacting, because silence only hurts the man who fears it. For the one who understands it, it becomes his greatest weapon. When you stop chasing, texting, and trying to force clarity, something subtle but powerful starts to happen. The power shifts. Your energy stops flowing toward her and begins returning to you. She feels that shift instantly, even if she can't explain it. At first, she might tell herself that she doesn't care, that your silence doesn't bother her, but that's just ego talking, because energy doesn't lie. When she was the center of your focus, she felt secure in her control. But when you pull that attention back, she starts to feel your absence like a missing heartbeat. The conversations stop, the notifications go quiet, and suddenly her world feels less vivid. She may not miss you yet, but she'll miss the feeling of being noticed, desired, validated. And that's when reflection begins. Silence turns into a mirror. It forces her to see what she lost, not through your words, but through her own emotions. Because here's the truth. When a man goes silent with peace, not bitterness, it doesn't create anger, it creates intrigue. She starts wondering what changed. Is he seeing someone else? Did he lose interest? Why isn't he reacting like everyone else? These questions are the seeds of attraction reborn, but they only grow in quiet soil. You can't talk them into existence. Every word you say while emotional undoes the work your silence could have done for you. So you must master the art of emotional control. Detach. Not to punish her, but to preserve yourself. Because your stillness doesn't just protect your energy, it multiplies it. It makes her realize that while she was seeking reactions, you were building restraint. And restraint is the rarest form of power in today's world. When you stop reacting, you stop giving her emotional leverage. You communicate a truth she can't unveil. My peace doesn't depend on your attention. And that truth shifts everything. You go from predictable to mysterious, from emotionally available to emotionally valuable. That contrast makes her mind race, and in that race, she feels something she can't control. Curiosity. And curiosity, brother, is the root of all attraction. So let her silence do its work. Don't interrupt the process by breaking your own discipline, because the more time passes, the louder your absence becomes. You don't need to remind her who you are. Your composure already will. And by the time she realizes it, it'll be too late. She'll be the one feeling the silence you've already mastered. Section number 3. When her game starts backfiring. At first, she thought silence would give her power. She believed that by pulling away, she'd control your emotions, make you chase, make you question, make you lose balance. But when you didn't react, when your energy stayed calm and detached, something inside her began to shift, because silence is a double-edged sword. And the moment a man stops playing the game, it starts cutting in the other direction. What was once her power becomes her punishment. Her silence, once designed to test you, starts testing her. She expected frustration, not peace. She expected you to crumble, not evolve. That unexpected strength forces her to face something she didn't prepare for. The emotional reversal. Now she's the one checking her phone, replaying old moments, wondering if you've moved on. That uncertainty grows into discomfort, because women aren't drawn to men they can control. They're drawn to men they can't quite figure out. And now your silence has turned you into that mystery. Every day you stay grounded, she loses the illusion of power she once had. She starts to wonder, did he really care? Was I the one being tested? Why isn't he affected? Those questions aren't harmless. They're seeds of doubt, and doubt always leads to desire. See, emotional reversal isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. You're showing her without saying a word that her silence didn't weaken you, it refined you. That while she was expecting chaos, you chose control. That's what separates stoic men from emotional ones. When most react, you reflect. And reflection is what turns emotional tension into respect. You didn't argue, you didn't beg, you didn't chase. And that calm becomes magnetic. Because when a man refuses to feed chaos, he forces others to face their own. You've become her mirror. And what she sees now isn't your weakness, it's her mistake. She may try to reappear subtly, a random text, a story post, a small excuse to reconnect. But now the dynamic has changed. Your silence turned from reaction to reflection, from powerlessness to power. You've rewritten the story in her mind. You're no longer the man waiting for attention. You're the man who gives it on his own terms. That shift in emotional authority is the quiet victory of stoicism. Because the truth is, she didn't lose interest. She lost control. And when a woman loses control over a man's emotions, she begins to crave the very energy she tried to suppress. So let her feel it. Don't rush. Don't explain. Don't break your silence too soon. Let the reversal complete itself. Because the moment she realizes she can't affect your peace anymore, she'll finally understand. Ignoring a stoic man costs far more than attention. It costs the one thing she can't replace, his energy. Section number 4, making her feel what you felt without saying a word. There's a point when your silence stops being a reaction and starts becoming a reflection, a mirror she can't look away from. That's when she begins to feel what you once felt, the confusion, the waiting, the second guessing, all the emotions she once had control over now turn inward. That's the price of peace. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to do anything. You don't chase, you don't text, you don't explain. You simply exist in calm detachment, because peace, when earned through restraint, has a power that chaos can't compete with. You're showing her what true strength feels like, not in anger, not in arguments, but in quiet indifference. That's when the tables turn. The silence that once made you doubt yourself now makes her doubt herself. She starts to wonder, was he pretending to care? Did I mean anything at all? Why doesn't he seem affected? Those thoughts don't fade, they multiply. And every unanswered question becomes a tiny reminder of the energy she took for granted. You're no longer fighting for peace. You are peace. And that's what unsettles her the most, because women expect men to chase, to seek closure, to prove their worth. But when you don't, when your silence becomes consistent, patient, and unbothered, she realizes something deeper. Your emotions were never dependent on her validation. You didn't go silent to punish her. You went silent to protect your peace. And that makes her question everything, because peace is magnetic. It pulls people toward it. She can ignore noise, but she can't ignore stillness. Stillness makes her aware of the chaos inside her. It reminds her of the calm she used to feel around you and how her own silence destroyed it. That realization burns quietly. It doesn't explode all at once. It grows slowly, day by day, each time your name crosses her mind. She begins to understand that losing access to your energy isn't just losing a man, it's losing balance. So don't rush her awakening. Don't break the silence to check her reaction. The longer you remain at peace, the heavier your absence becomes. Your silence turns into gravity, and gravity doesn't chase, it pulls. That's the price she pays for ignoring you. Not revenge, not anger, but emptiness. The kind of emptiness that no distraction can fill, because it's shaped exactly like your energy. You don't need to make her miss you. Your peace already does that for you. And the truth is, she won't even understand why it hurts. She'll just know that something rare slipped away quietly. That's the ultimate consequence of your silence. It makes her feel the one thing she never expected from you: indifference. And in a world where everyone fights for attention, indifference is the most powerful lesson she'll ever learn. Section number 5, how to stay silent without becoming cold. Detachment isn't about pretending not to care. It's about refusing to lose yourself in what you can't control. Most men mistake silence for emotional shutdown. But real detachment isn't coldness. It's composure. It's the art of staying warm but unavailable, kind but unreachable, open but untouchable. That's what confuses her the most. Because when you master detachment, you no longer play by emotional rules. You create your own. You don't react when she withholds attention. You don't crumble when she withdraws affection. You stay calm because you've learned the difference between connection and dependence. A Stoic man understands that connection is a gift, not an obligation. And if someone pulls away, he doesn't chase, he adjusts. That quiet adjustment, that effortless shift from attachment to peace is what makes you magnetic. You're not punishing her. You're protecting your energy. And the more you protect it, the more valuable it becomes. But detachment takes discipline. It's not built in a day. It's practiced in moments of weakness. Every time your phone tempts you to text her, every time your ego demands an explanation, every time your emotions scream for closure, that's where detachment is forged. You don't fight the feeling. You observe it. You let it rise and fall like a wave, but you never let it dictate your actions. That's how emotional mastery is built, not through suppression, but through control. Because when you can hold silence without discomfort, you gain an energy that few men ever reach. You become unpredictable, not by force, but by peace. And unpredictability creates attraction. Women can sense this shift instinctively. When your silence stops being reactive and starts being natural, she feels it. You're no longer waiting for her. You're moving on without needing to. That energy makes her curious. How can he stay so calm? Why isn't he chasing me? Did he really move on? Those questions become her quiet torment, and all you did was stop responding. That's the power of detachment. It doesn't demand attention. It earns it. But here's the truth. Detachment doesn't mean shutting your heart. It means opening it wisely. You don't stop caring. You stop giving care to places that can't handle it. You become selective, deliberate, unshakable. And that energy doesn't just make women chase you, it makes life chase you. Because a man in control of his emotions controls everything around him. So keep your peace sacred. Guard it like your last breath, because once you learn to detach with discipline, her silence will never disturb you again. It will only confirm what you've already mastered. You no longer need to be understood to feel powerful. Section number 6, how distance rebuilds her respect. When you stop chasing, something powerful begins to happen. Your value starts to return because the truth is attraction fades where effort isn't respected. The more you try to convince someone to see your worth, the more invisible you become. But when you pull back with quiet confidence, when you no longer explain or seek closure, you force reflection. Distance becomes your teacher, and in that space, your value starts to echo. Women may not say it out loud, but they feel it deeply. The energy of a man who no longer fights to be seen. You stop being the man in the background of her options and become the one she replays in her mind. Why? Because silence creates contrast. She remembers how it felt when your attention was consistent, the messages, the warmth, the calm energy you carried, and then she feels its absence. That absence exposes what she took for granted. Every good morning you stopped sending, every check-in you stopped offering, every ounce of peace you once gave, it all becomes heavy in her memory. Distance, when done with discipline, doesn't push her away. It pulls her back in because it reminds her of something rare. Your energy wasn't desperate, it was devoted. And devotion without attachment is the rarest thing a woman can experience. When you move on without resentment, she feels that maturity. When you stay silent instead of explaining, she feels that control. And when you remain kind but distant, she feels that power. Respect is rebuilt not through words, but through absence, handled with grace. You're not punishing her. You're showing her what life feels like without your presence stabilizing it. The stability she once overlooked now becomes the peace she can't recreate. Here's the irony. Most men lose value by trying to hold on. But Stoic men gain value by letting go, because peace, once lost, becomes memory, and memory becomes magnetism. She begins to notice things differently. The men who talk too much start to feel empty. The ones who chase her start to feel predictable. The more she compares, the clearer it becomes. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was worth. You didn't beg for validation. You became validation. That realization can take weeks or months, but it always arrives because no one forgets the person who brought them calm and then vanished without explanation. That's the emotional signature of a man with self-respect. So don't measure your silence by how fast she returns. Measure it by how much peace you've reclaimed. because the man who no longer seeks attention becomes the man who commands it effortlessly. And when she finally feels the price of your absence, she'll understand what your presence was truly worth. Section number 7. Her silence was the test. Yours became the answer. At some point, you'll realize her silence was never the problem. It was the mirror. It showed you everything you needed to know about her and everything you needed to remember about yourself. When she ignored you, life handed you a lesson that your value is not proven through effort, but through energy. You don't convince someone to see your worth, you remind them through your peace. Her silence was her test. She wanted to see if your emotions controlled you. But your silence became your answer. It showed that your emotions serve you. That difference is everything. Because a man who can remain composed when his ego is provoked, when his patience is stretched, when his heart is tempted to chase, that man has mastered himself. And once you've mastered yourself, no one else can master you. She thought ignoring you would make you question your worth. Instead, it made you find it. She thought silence would make you weak, but it made you wise. You stopped measuring your power by her reactions and started measuring it by your restraint. And that shift changed everything. Because strength isn't about what you hold on to. It's about what you can walk away from without losing yourself. You learn to let go without anger, to accept without attachment, to move on without noise. That's emotional sovereignty. And it's the highest form of attraction a man can project. You've become untouchable, not because you're cold, but because you're centered. Your silence isn't punishment, it's peace. It's the calm of a man who doesn't chase energy. He embodies it, and now she feels it. She feels the weight of her own silence coming back full circle. She feels the absence of your validation, your patience, your understanding. She may try to return, but you'll be different now. You'll talk less, observe more. You won't react the way you once did because silence taught you something words never could. That peace is the real form of power. You no longer seek closure from people who don't value communication. You are the closure. You are the ending, the lesson, and the peace after the storm. So if she ignored you, don't seek revenge. Seek growth. Let your silence teach her what your words never could. That losing access to your energy was the real punishment. Because once a woman feels the absence of a calm, grounded man, every loud, uncertain one after you feels hollow. She'll remember your stillness, your discipline, your restraint, not as weakness, but as mastery. That's when you've won. Not because she comes back, but because you no longer need her to. Her silence tested you. Your silence transformed you. And that transformation, that's the kind of power no one can ignore. At the end of it all, brother, you'll realize that silence isn't weakness. It's weight. It's the kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't explain, doesn't compete. It simply is. When she ignored you, it wasn't rejection. It was revelation. It revealed where your strength truly stood. You were meant to feel that discomfort, to sit in it, to learn from it. Because pain teaches what comfort never can. It refines your patience, your focus, your emotional control. You didn't lose her. You found yourself. You found the version of you that doesn't need attention to feel complete. The man who knows his worth without validation. The man who can walk through silence without collapsing under it. That's the man women remember. That's the man they regret losing. See, ignoring you was her test, but your reaction became your transformation. You stopped proving, you stopped chasing, and you started becoming. You replaced confusion with clarity. You traded impulse for introspection. And somewhere in that process, you grew into the kind of man who doesn't just attract, he commands. Not through control, but through calm. Your silence spoke louder than any paragraph could. It told her everything without saying a word. I don't need you to understand my worth to know that I have it. That sentence, unspoken, is the most attractive thing a man can ever project. Now she'll feel it, not because you forced it, but because energy always returns to its source. Your stillness will echo in her mind long after the noise of her distractions fades. Every time she feels chaos, she'll remember your calm. Every time she meets someone new, she'll compare the noise of their presence to the peace of yours. That's not revenge, that's resonance. You became the standard. You became the mirror. You became the silence she can't unhear. So the next time a woman ignores you, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Let her silence sharpen your focus, harden your discipline, deepen your peace.